right, guys, here is a Dinan Stage 2 E46 M3 launch. Hope you guys enjoy. Very nice.
Not bad.
Sounds so good, pulls just right. Not the fastest car in the world, but it's got it where it counts, right? It's got a lot of soul, a lot of character, shifts great. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Guys, welcome back to Driven Productions. My name is Adam. So you are looking at one of the best looking E46 M3s I've ever seen. This is an Interlagos Blue. Now in our last review, which I'll go ahead and put a link to right now, we did two incredible BMWs that were owned by my good friend Dan. We did a Laguna Seca E46 M3 and we also did an E36 M3 in a black metallic, and it was both, I think, really great content. We do point of view drives on those. Now those cars were mostly stock, right? Now this one is, I think, just the excellent example of something that still is tastefully modified. You have a little extra horsepower out of this S54 engine, inline six. These were 333 horsepower stock. This one's probably pushing more around 350 with the Dinan Stage 2 upgrades. It also has some excellent upgrades on the suspension. It's got some exhaust, intake work, and whatnot. So I'm gonna be bringing on Jonathan, the owner, here in just a moment. We'll go ahead and get his take on the car, all the things that have been done. I love this Interlagos Blue. Guys, this is such a good looking color. It reminds me a lot of Porsche's Paint to Sample. That is a gentian blue color, and guys, it changes from blue to dark blue to purple depending on the light and the way it hits it. And I love these CSL wheels. I love the stance of the car. And frankly, I just gotta say this right off the bat, I just love the way this particular year of BMW looks. I think it's better looking today, and I said this in the last review with the other cars, but I think it looks better today than any modern M3 product. I'm not a huge fan, and I know a lot of the guys that are out there, of the massive kidney grills, right? That go from the top to the bottom. It just looks more ostentatious, whereas this just looks like a beautiful, elegant luxury car, which is exactly what it is. So I hope you guys enjoy the content. As always, if you're interested in it, subscribe. We make this stuff weekly, and let's get Jonathan on and get his take.
This one's got a whole lot of stuff done to it. As far as the OEM Plus side of things, it's got a OEM CSL trunk, and it's got a Vorsteiner diffuser, which is a CSL replica. So it's got the 1x1 carbon weave. It's got Dinan front and rear strut bars, as you can see. It's got a Dinan intake, Dinan sway bars, a lot of Dinan suspension components, as well as KW V2 suspension. And then besides that, brakes are stock. The car did have a big brake kit on it, but it was sold prior to me purchasing the vehicle.
Brakes felt good though on it.
Yeah, the stock brakes on these cars are fine. I mean, if you're tracking it, it'll fade a little bit. But
sure, of course.
As far as, you know, day-to-day driving, it's more than enough that you would need.
Yep.
It's got a Dinan short throw shifter with poly bushing, so it's super notchy feeling shifter.
Yes, that's one thing I don't like, guys, about the regular E46 M3s. They just don't have a great shifting feel. They're kind of squishy. You know, they're no S2000 or BMW, or not BMW, but Mazda Speed or MX-5. You know, they just have slightly better short throws and just a little bit, they slot in real nice. This one though felt great. Clutch release was great. You know, we'll take a point of view drive here in a second and kind of break that down more. Exterior wise, I do notice, tell me about this quad exhaust again. You were saying something earlier that I thought was interesting.
Yeah, so the exhaust setup on this vehicle is European headers, which are catless, and then it goes to an OEM Section 2, and then from that a Super Sprint Section 3, and then it has the Dinan rear muffler. And the interesting part about the Dinan rear muffler on these cars is they only come out of the right side.
No kidding.
Which is kind of odd.
So guys, I'm actually personally curious. This is 166,000 miles and quite a few upgrades. So if you were watching this video, what would you tell people based on your long experience in these? You know, what should they be paying for a stock one? And then also, if they wanted to make the same amount of upgrades this one has, how much is that going to run roughly?
So depending on the maintenance of the vehicle, if it has what everybody loves to say, the big three done, which are rod bearings, vanos, and subframe, if all of that is done around this mileage, I would say expect to spend 20 to 25, depending on the spec, maybe 30. This car being a very rare color combo is obviously on the higher end of that, and all the modifications done to it. But I mean, if you're wanting a bone stock one and you want to do all the mods to it, expect to spend 20 to 25. If you want the big 3 done without, I would say 18, 20 grand. It just depends. The market for these cars is so broad. It's just, there's a huge range of things, and some people ask ridiculous prices and then somebody buys it and that sets the tone for the market, right. Which is kind of what's happened with these cars. But it really just depends. As far as like, if you want to do these modifications to your car, I would expect to spend around $6,000 to $8,000 to get it dialed like this. Mainly because this KW suspension is the most expensive part. But if you're doing the maintenance yourself, you need to have at least 10 grand aside to do the big 3 if you want them done properly. Subframe alone is going to be 3 grand. Bearings are 2 to 3 grand. Vanos is another 2 grand. So stuff like that, and while you're in there, you're going to want to do other things. Say you're doing the bearings, the starter's right there. You might as well just buy the part, have them do it. Stuff like that. So it just depends.
Interesting. So you're talking about $10,000 to do the big 3 and then an additional 6 grand to put these upgrades in. Yeah. And then you're talking about what for the car if it was just bone stock with 160,000 miles? Yeah,
bone stock with 160,000 miles, probably the 18, 20 grand.
18. Yeah. So you're talking about a $35,000 proposition here.
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's a fantastic car for the money. I mean, once you get one of these dialed, I think it's really hard to find another car that can outperform this for the money. I mean, it just depends on your driving style and what you really enjoy, but I mean, if you want an S2000 or a Miata, then you're gonna have a blast in them as well. But if you want something a little bit more fast and refined and whatnot, then this is the car for you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. This still has a sense of elegance and an occasion to it that, let's be 100% realistic, the MX-5s of the world don't have. Right. They're fun, don't get me wrong. I love my Mazda Speed. I think I reviewed an S2000 that had, $60,000 worth of upgrades not long ago. I'll put a link to that for you guys if you want to check that car out. It wasn't this though. There's just a certain brand pedigree, there's a comfort, there's a quality to the interior that just feels next level, you know? And it gives you quite a bit of soul, especially with the exhaust on this thing. So let's take this thing for a point of view drive and kind of show the folks what it does. Let's do it. All right, guys, we're driving the E46 M3 with some Dinan goodies. This thing sounds so good, and picking it up on camera, it's probably never going to really give you the effect that I'm hearing, They redline at 8,000 RPMs. Some tight left. And then tight right. Pulls so well. So linear, Very linear. There's not like a big torque curve or anything you get on a modern turbo engine. I mean, it's not all the power in the world, but it's perfectly usable, and you can extract every little bit of it and put it down.
It's that's what makes balanced. It fun. Yeah, very balanced.
And it's amazing, guys. It's almost 100 degrees today, really high humidity, and yet this car, we're beating on it, and it is perfectly fine. It is happy. That in itself is pretty incredible. Oh, it pulls so good. How does this car have 166,000 miles? That's what I want to know.
I know. It's crazy.
I just don't believe it. They're so well built and they're so well engineered, They just don't make them like they used to, right?
They really don't.
That's one of my favorite turns in this whole road. Just the way it shifts the weight. So fun.
This thing just eats it up.
It does. All right, coming up here on the right, there's another road we can go down.
It's dialed.
Yeah, the car's great, guys. It really is. These upgrades really open it up.
For sure.
Really open up the power plant, the sound, the overall driving experience. It's just all taken up one level. However, it still maintains that drivability and that livability. I mean, the exhaust is not ostentatious, right? It's not gonna drive your neighbors crazy. It's not backfiring, right? There's a lot of these things out there that I don't recommend you straight pipe your BMW M3. You can keep it a little classy, right? I mean, this looks like a classy car, and it should drive like one too. So I think these upgrades are just perfect. Definitely enjoy the driving experience, and passenger and as a driver. I got to drive it on the way over to our shoot location. So what are some of the cars you've had over the years?
So it all started with a 2000 Mercedes E430. I had that car as my first car. I bought it from Nashville Speed Shop, a local dealer out here. Cheapest car in the lot. They literally had to uncover it from trees and spray it off and put a new battery in it for me to buy it. That car was awesome. Had that for a while, sold it, and purchased my first 944, so I got into the Porsche world pretty early on. It was a fun car. I sold that to a close friend of mine, and I found a 325 IS that was totally modded. It had cams, headers, suspension, race seats, all that kind of stuff. That car was an absolute riot. Sold it. Unfortunately, I T-boned somebody because they failed to yield. So the car ended up being totaled.
Damn.
Yeah, it stinks, but sad to see that one go. But I ended up finding a 325 ES down in Atlanta for a really, really good deal. Drove down there, drove the car back, had that for a few months, and ended up selling that for a pretty good profit. And then I got a silver 944 Euro spec from California. I bought that car in Sacramento and then drove that back from Sacramento all the way to Nashville. That was brutal with no AC.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was out in July. It was a blast. So I would do it all over again for sure.
Of course.
Had that car for a little under a year, sold it, and after the 944, I ended up purchasing an E46 M3 that was Alpine white over cinnamon. Super clean, just bone stock. Fun car. It was really high mileage. That's kind of why I sold it. I just didn't really see the long term for that car. Had it for a few months. Once I sold that, I ended up getting an F80 M3. I had that as my daily driver. It's a 2015. Also bought that in California and drove it back. Just for some reason, I keep finding good deals in California, which is the opposite of what most people think. But it was a great car.
Facebook Marketplace mostly?
Yeah, Facebook Marketplace for every single car I've bought so far. But that car was super well done. It was mineral white, black interior. I had gold CS wheels and a bunch of other good stuff on there. After the F80, I sold that and freed up some cash and found an E39 M5 on Facebook for a super, super good deal. So snagged that and pulled the entire interior out, restored it, and flipped it, sold that within less than a month. Once that was gone, I found a E90 M3, and that was the replacement. It was jet black over extended fox red, 6-speed, super rare spec. A really, really special car. The previous owner did a bunch of work over the course of 4 or 5 years on it. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. I just let that go last week and picked up this 2005 Interlagos Blue over cinnamon competition.
Well, thank you so much. If you made it this far into the video, we appreciate you watching. Thank you so much for Jonathan for allowing us to come and spotlight this incredible machine. I love learning about his take on all of his history of cars and the upgrades that this one's had. I think the point of view drive was thrilling and fun, and just know, guys, we're over an hour outside of Nashville here. We literally are in the country, so we push it a little bit when we can without endangering anybody's lives. But this is just such a special car. I love this color. I think the upgrades and the stance and just, it's so great, and they're just never gonna make these again, and it's really sad. Everything's gonna be turbocharged or electric. So while you can get your hands on one of these for somewhere in the 30 or even mid 20 or even lower than that potentially, and it's had the big 3 done like Jonathan was saying, I think it's a great store of value. You can enjoy the car on weekends. You can have some fun. They're going to become more and more collectible. They made 85,000 of these E46 M3s, so it's not like they're a low production car. It's actually the biggest run of M3s they ever made. They have just a massive hit on their hands. But the question is, as people crash them and, as just parts break down and older mile ones, I mean, these are just going to have less and less and less as we head into an EV world. So I think it's a good store of value, guys. I really do. So that's it for us. If you're interested in the content, subscribe and drop a comment down if you learned something or if you found some value in this video. Welcome back to Driven Productions. My name is Adam. So today, guys, we have a really cool car. You know, we just recently did a Lagunitas Blue. No, that's not true. We didn't do a Lagunitas Blue. Interlagos Blue. Yes. Interlagos Blue. Interlagos Blue.